As a calisthenics athlete, I'm well acquainted with elbow pain. But I'm going to show you over 20 exercises that you can use to help slowly overcome that. Wrist flexion in a short range, mid-range, long range, wrist extension in a short range, mid-range, long range, radial deviation in a short to mid-range, long range, ulnar deviation, short to mid-range, long range, pronation in a short range, long range, supination, short range, long range, dynamic crushing grip strength. You can hang on a bar for static grip strength. Open hand strength. Now that you've seen every exercise in a flash that I'm going to go through in the video, now I want to take some time to slow down, go through each one individually, and show you how you can manipulate the strength curves of that particular exercise and how they might be beneficial for your circumstances. So for your wrist and hand, you have 8 basic movements that you can do. So starting with the hand, we have grip strength. So that's the ability to close your hand. Then we have open hand strength. So the ability to open your fingers against resistance. Then moving up to the wrist, we can start with wrist flexion. So bringing the hand closer towards the pit of the elbow. Then we have wrist extension. It's where you bring the knuckles closer to this lateral side of your elbow, wrist extension. Then we have radial deviation. So that means we're moving our thumb towards this radius bone here, okay? Radial deviation. Then we have ulnar deviation, where you're moving the wrist to the side towards your ulna bone here. So ulnar deviation, radial deviation. And then lastly, we have pronations, where you rotate your forearm, particularly this thumb, okay, towards the center of your body or midline of your body. Then we have supination, where you're rotating the thumb to the outside of your body, away from your body. And those are your 8 basic movements. Oftentimes when you have pain in an area, it can be due to imbalances, tightness, maybe due to your sport. For example, overuse, like if you're playing tennis, you're using these muscles a lot when you do your backhand and forehand strikes. So a really good approach to start with is to try and strengthen all of the areas around it. So for me, as a calisthenics athlete, I would end up getting this chronic medial elbow pain right around this epicondyle area. And so for me, I had to think of strengthening every area in and around where my pain was coming from, okay? So again, if the pain is here, then one of the first things I want to think about is strengthening all the areas around it. So that's why I want to think of every motion there is with the wrist and with the hand that can strengthen all the different areas, the lateral side of my elbow, the medial side of my elbow, the sides, all these different areas to try and help restore that balanced musculature and connective tissue to those areas. So let's start with flexion. Now this is one of the most common ones that you're gonna see done. This is a very familiar wrist exercise. So we can work wrist flexion in 3 different angles. This is going to get more of that short range. So pretty much no tension here, but as you come up, you're really gonna start to feel it in the meat of this muscle, right? That muscle belly, you might call it, right here, okay? So this could be a great place to start. However, again, as somebody with chronic medial pain and slowly overcoming it myself, dealt with it a lot in the past, sometimes this short range actually feels like it irritates it a little bit more. Maybe, sometimes. So here are some other angles. This is probably the angle that most people are familiar with wrist curls, okay? This one, and this might be the one that I default to the most. Okay, you have the most range of motion here. That's pretty much tension all the way through at the bottom, the mid, and the top here, okay? But if you really wanna work maybe the stretched position, well, I don't necessarily recommend this. You just really can't get anything here. But think more wrist push-ups, okay? So now my wrist flexors are in a stretched position. So if I'm here and I come up onto those first knuckles, okay, I'm gonna really get those wrist flexors in that long range position. Now for extension, this might be one of the first exercises you do if you have pain on the lateral side. So just like with the flexion, if you hold the weight standing, you're really not gonna feel much tension here except for a little static grip strength, but only as you curl up this way. Very small range of motion. This will be short range, right? But you're gonna feel it in this top position right here, okay? But most people might be familiar with this version, okay? So similar to the other one, this might be my go-to, right? Just because I feel like I can get the most range having my arm propped up in a position like this. But if you wanted to get your wrist extensors in a more stretched position, you could do something like this, where you prop your arm up this way and you would actually pinch the weight and then let the weight pull you down into this stretched position. This is gonna stretch your wrist extensors, but this might be a great option for you to really lengthen and stretch these wrist extensor muscles. Okay, now we're into radial deviation. This might be one that people are starting to get a little unfamiliar with. Wrist flexion and extension, everybody knows that, but not as many people know this. So for radial deviation, okay, you're really going to work this brachioradialis muscle right here. Now holding the bar down here like this might be my go-to, as there's tension in pretty much every part of the movement. But if you do want to stretch it out a little bit more, get a slightly different angle, you could hold your elbow flexed or straight out. You could prop it on something or free like this, up to you, but you let it pull you down now this way. You're gonna feel it a little bit more actually in the wrist joint doing it this way, but it's up to you which way you want to do it. You're still gonna work this brachioradialis. Now for me, as a calisthenics athlete, again, most of my pain has always been in this inside part, but if you find yourself with chronic elbow pain on this lateral side, this might be a great option for you. All right, now we're doing the opposite of that radial deviation. Remember, now we're deviating the wrist towards this ulna bone. Holding it down here at the bottom, this is probably where you're gonna get the most work, as every part of the exercise has some tension in those muscles. But if you did want to switch it up, flip the bar around, and then you could put your elbow up like this, and you might feel a little bit more of a stretch directly in your wrist down here. So if that feels like it might be applicable to you, maybe you got some pain in this area, this might be a better option for you, as long as you can handle it and it feels good. Okay, so now we're getting into pronation here. Me personally, this is one that I have used a lot because it gets directly into that mid elbow area where I have had the most chronic pain over the years. So you could do it on supported leg, flexed elbow, straight elbow. This is personally and currently my favorite. So I support the elbow, I have it straight, and I come in like this. So with the bar facing down, you're gonna work that lockout position when the muscle is most shortened. So this would be short range pronation. But if I want to work it in a more of a stretched position, then I turn the bar up like this and I let it pull my wrist and my pronators into that stretch, and then I come up like this. Now make sure you're not just rotating the shoulder, right? But you're really letting the wrist rotate like that. All right, so now working supination. This can be a great one, again, if you have lateral elbow pain. By holding the bar down like this, the further I am up the bar, the harder it's gonna be. The closer I am towards the head, the easier it's gonna be. But by holding the bar down like this, I'm training that lockout position, okay? So short range supination work. Now, you will actually feel the bicep working too, because that's one of the jobs of the bicep, is to supinate the wrist, not just elbow flexion, okay? So this would be short range supination work. You can do it without support. You can do it with your elbows extended, flexed, whichever you want, okay? But if I want to work those supination muscles in more of a stretched position, just flip the bar around like so. And now it's gonna pull your forearm, the supination muscles, into more of a stretch, okay? And again, you could hold it out straight, flexed, you could be supported, unsupported, it's up to you. You can add weight, just do what feels good. Okay, now grip strength is honestly a sport in and of itself. This is just one variation. This is called crushing grip strength, but there are so many different grip strength tools out there. I've played with almost all of them, but I have found this to be sufficient for my purposes. So this can be really good. This is a staple of mine to really help work, again, the wrist flexors and forearm flexors for medial elbow pain. So you can try and play around with differences in wrist position, but it's really not going to change the strength curve all that much. So this is dynamic crushing grip strength, and then I also like to work static grip strength by hanging from a bar. Okay, then lastly, we have open hand strength, okay? So I put a rubber band around my fingers, and now I have to open my hand against resistance. This could be a staple for someone who has lateral elbow pain. This is going to get the forearm and finger extensors all on this side. However, this is a staple of mine as well, because it's a good idea if you're gonna get strong in one position, right? As a calisthenics athlete, I do a lot for these wrist flexors, the forearm flexors. So in the interest of trying to stay balanced, I really like to work these as well to get strong in the opposite musculature. Okay, so all of the exercises that I've showed you, it's not meant to be an exhaustive list. It's not every single one that you can do, because we're just dealing with wrist movements. We're gonna do a whole nother video on elbow movements, direct elbow movements for the health there. But it's a great place to start if you're having chronic elbow pain that just doesn't seem to go away. If you haven't already checked this off your list, go for it. Try these different exercises out. Try the multiple angles and see if any of them are helpful for you. I know for me, they've been extremely helpful. Now, I will also say, I don't necessarily think every single one you have to do all of the time. I kind of rotate some of them in and out. For example, for the last couple months, 2-3 months, I haven't really done any wrist flexion or extension, because I have found that working on the pronation, the supination, the deviation, crushing grip strength, open hand strength, I have found that right now to really be suiting me for my purposes, and it's really helping with my pain here. Now, if you do need some extra help, I offer in-person training. I also offer online training and hybrid training, which is where you could train with me in person some of the time and online training some of the time, whichever suits your purposes and your lifestyle best. But reach out to me if you need at jhaystrength.com. Again, I hope this is helpful. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching this video. For more information for training and pricing options, check out jhaystrength.com. Oh, whoops. Woohoo.